with this strategy, basically we have to run renewal lists. We have to determine a plan of attack, and the plan of attack with the agency is very important. We have to determine how we're going to distribute the list to the staff, and I recommend not letting the staff choose, because Betty's going to want George because George is a great client, and Henry's going to want Freddie because Freddie's his favorite client. So it starts to get with all these opinions, and it's just not worth going through those opinions. Hey, Therese with Agency Performance Partners with the awesome Diva Insurance, Steven and Bobby. Woohoo! Thanks, guys, for coming for our love banter that we're doing today on customer retention strategies in the insurance industry, how to set up and execute renewal review calls.
I love renewal review calls.
You do? Why?
I do, because it gives us a way to contact our customers. It's a little less awkward than just calling them for no reason at all.
Well, you mean you can't just sell a policy and then leave it?
Well, you could.
You could, but you don't want to, right? You don't want to.
No.
All right. So we're looking at all these statistics about renewal review calls, and it's definitely a strategy we want to have because we don't want to just, like I said, write it and leave it. We want to make sure that we are getting in touch with our clients, being thankful for the policies they give us, all that kind of stuff. But it says 65% of customers who leave an agency never talked to an agent before they left. 80% who did talk to an agent that year stayed. Only 13% of your book of business is truly loyal. 52 of insurance customers describe themselves as relationship buyers. So how important is the rapport building?
I mean, I'd say we got to do it all the time. A customer is buying from me because they like me, but if they can't remember who I am during their policy term, I need to keep that relationship going throughout the year in order to really establish my value for them.
I think it also is kind of like going above and beyond in simple ways, like remembering a fact about the client or just putting notes in the system to refer back to. Like I used to always love to talk about, like, what did you name your car? And some people would laugh and be like, oh, my car doesn't have a name. I'm like, cool. Some people name their car. That's why I asked. But imagine if, like, when the customer calls in, you were like, hey, how's Gretchen doing? And they're like, ha, ha, ha. Or how's Henry doing?
Well, and that's a great point, Stephen, because, we can put that data in our system, right? So even if I'm not there and Therese is taking the call, she still knows how to connect with the client. And we've made that transition really easy for her.
For sure. 1 in 3 people will shop for a new auto insurance policy this year, and only half of these people will look at one quote before making a purchase. So that's why you have to be careful and not, send the quotes, but you need to get to that customer quickly. You need to make sure that you're keeping in touch with those customers. Customers who shop for coverage once are 350% more likely to shop again the following year. Isn't that crazy? The average retention rate within the insurance industry is 84%. Top agencies are beating that average by 10%.
94%.
Yeah, so I think relationship, and I know there's a statistic here in the blog, I can't seem to find it at this moment, but it talks about a lot of customers are buying for the relationship. We're relationship people. And, if we don't have a relationship, what's the point of staying with that agent? There's really no point in that.
So what's really interesting is one of the things I was reading said 13% of customers started shopping because of a rate increase. So 13%, like that is like 1 in 9.5. Not a whole lot. We're all like, but my customers are so price sensitive. Well, only 13% of them start shopping because of that. But 28% start shopping because of what they perceived as lousy service. That's like 3 out of 10, right? So 4/10 of your book will shop because of rate and or service, but it's primarily service. But when we talk to agencies, what does everybody say? What makes your agency so special? We have great service. And I always say it in an obnoxious voice because whenever I'm talking to agencies, I'm like, what makes your agency amazing? We're great service. I'm like, what is great service to you? And they're like, because we do when our customers call, we answer the phone. I'm like, you know what? So does my cable company, and that is not great service.
Right, 100%. So with this strategy, basically, we have to run renewal lists. We have to determine a plan of attack, and the plan of attack with the agency is very important. We have to determine how we're going to distribute the list to the staff, and I recommend not letting the staff choose, because Betty's going to want George because George is a great client, and Henry's going to want Freddie because Freddie's his favorite client. So it starts to get with all these opinions, and it's just not worth going through those opinions. So split it up with last names, or find a way to split it up to make it easy. So you just give a certain amount to each customer service representative. And when you start looking at the list of all the clients you have, you start thinking, oh my gosh, this is a ton of calls, but it's really not. Once you start getting, the hang of it, you start separating them, they start making the calls. It starts to get easier every year, and you get less and less calls because you get the hang of it. You know how many you're going to do. The agency also has to determine how far in advance you're going to call people. Is it going to be 30 days? Is it going to be 60 days? Is it going to be 90 days?
Because that can vary by department too. So don't think that you have to do like 30 days for everybody. Sometimes commercial is 90, personal is 60, or it could be like 60 and 45. I mean, really, you have to build it around each department. Or like life health, where it's heavy in December, what you can do is spread those throughout the year just to keep those relationships developed.
Well, and you always have those agents, oh, I don't do renewal calls because I don't want to poke the sleeping bear. You don't necessarily always have to make them renewal review calls. They could be review calls that are 3 months into a policy where you're just saying, hey, customer, how are you? I just wanted to verify that your address is still correct, that these are the vehicles on the policy, that these are the drivers, that you haven't upgraded your home, you haven't added an addition, that you're still using your car to drive to and from work. So you're basically going through and checking all of those, details in the policy that could have changed because people's lives change every 90 days, and we want to make sure we keep up with that. And to do these calls, you have a pre-checklist. What would be a pre-checklist item for you guys?
I think I need to know, have there been any changes? Have they made any updates? Do we have any new exposures? I think
Pre-checklist, though, you're reviewing the policy before you call them. So the pre-checklist is going through the policy and just looking at it before you call them.
Yeah, so I'm going to want to know, do I have multiple policy lines? Is there any opportunity there? What happened during that term that, a lot of times we'll make changes to a policy during a policy term that might be causing a rate increase when the renewal happens. So that's always something that we can get in front of too, to talk to the customer about.
Excellent. How about you, Stephen? What's some of your pre-checklist stuff that you look at?
I like to look for discounts on the policy, like making sure that if I think that they should qualify for one, that it's there. Has there been any claims or large losses, any driving activity, or other things that could affect the rate? Like Bobby said, any endorsements recently that could affect it? I think really just going through and making sure that I have a good handle on why the rates may change, so I can prepare the customer for that.
Right. And then, of course, we have a review checklist that we do during the review. And that one, we basically should fill out as we're on the phone with the customer. It actually has a sequence where you go through and it helps build rapport, or reminds you to build rapport. And then it asks the important questions about verifying that we just discussed. Another thing your agency needs to do is determine the percentage of increase that allows for remarkets or rewrites. So if somebody is going to remarket or rewrite, what are the qualifications to do that? Your agency has to have one, because if not, for some reason, we as agents, we think it's easier to remarket. I cannot tell you, when I was in my first agency, I was there for 8 years. The easy answer was to requote it and rewrite it. And I don't know why. I have no idea why. Now looking at this, and as I've, increased and gotten better in the insurance industry, I learned myself that remarketing and rewriting was not the best thing to do, that it's better to review and look for discounts. So you need to discuss those limitations as an agency. Beware of the dangers of rewrites. Stephen, what's a danger of a rewrite?
Ooh, they think you have a magic wand and you train them that you're going to save them money at every single renewal because you did it one time.
Yes, yes. Bobby, what's a danger of a rewrite? Something that could happen if I rewrite a policy.
I could miss some coverages. Yes. I could miss some old legacy endorsements or vanishing deductibles, or dates that are very important that we could miss and really cause a lot of E&O to the agency.
I cannot tell you how many times that has happened in an agency that I've worked for. They rewrote it and they missed something, and you have to go back, and hopefully it wasn't too far from when it was written, so you can, retroactively get it added back on. But you've got inspections here in North Carolina. Insurance companies are like your HOA. You can't have junk cars in the yard. Your house needs to be clean. Your roof needs to be decent and updated. So they could go out and inspect your home and say, sorry, we're not going to write you. You lose the features of the current policies, like Bobby mentioned, longevity. Some companies, homeowners policies, if you have a claim, your longevity will actually reduce the cost of the increase on your policy. The longer you're with that company, the less of a percentage the increase is when you have a claim on your home. So there are a lot of things that we need to think about before we remarket. So that's why we do renewal reviews. So then you can create scripts and have scripts for your staff, whether it be when somebody picks up the phone and answers, or when you need to leave a voicemail. Make a catch. You want to call to action. Hey, this is Therese at Agency Performance Partners. I was just calling to look for discounts on your insurance policies. If you could, I'd really appreciate you giving me a call back at your earliest convenience. I think I might have found something that could save you money. Say something that's actually going to get them excited about their insurance and want to call you back. Other than that, you got to talk through all these things with your staff. Let the staff give you some ideas. There may be some ideas. If something's not working when you're doing these renewal reviews, if you're calling every Tuesday at 10 o'clock and you never get an answer, don't call every Tuesday at 10 o'clock. You need to change your blocked times to the afternoon, switch them around and make them different, because you want your staff to at least connect with some people. So when a client is adamant about getting a cheaper policy, make sure you're also selling value. Value is very important. What's something that's valuable on an insurance policy that people wouldn't think about? It's going to increase your price just a little bit, but it's going to give you value in your policies. What's something you guys can think of?
Water sewer backup.
Yeah.
Do you want to put on your muck boots and clean up that mess, or you want to pay somebody else to do it?
Yeah, no, pay somebody else to do it, or have it on our insurance policy so the insurance policy covers it.
Well, I was a California girl for all my life, so that earthquake coverage was always really important. And there's kind of the back and forth, is it worth it or is it not? But I'll tell you, I'd rather have a loan for my 10% deductible than the total value of my home. So
let me just say, when I moved to North Carolina, there was a tiny tremor. And of course, here in the United States, they call them earthquakes. I lived in Guatemala. It's not an earthquake. It was a tremor. And everybody called in to add earthquake on their policy. And at the time, you could. But then all of a sudden, the carriers were like, no, you can only add that at renewal. So some of the stuff you can add, but you can only add at renewal. So be careful on that. So remember what kind of voice to use. Don't use mommy, daddy, suggestive voice. Make sure you're confident. You're the licensed insurance agent. You know what you're talking about. Sell value and not price. Make sure you're doing your renewal review calls. Use an introduction, build rapport. Review their policy before you call them. Give them recommendations, educated recommendations. Confirm next steps, and gratitude is very important. Make sure you're thanking them for their business. And that is all for us today. Thank you for listening to our blog banter today. And we hope you guys use our renewal review strategies in the future to help your agency be successful, thrive, and building rapport with your clients. Thanks so much, guys.
Thanks, guys.
agencyperformancepartners.com. Check us out.